The Two and Out CFL podcast with Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones starts now.
And here we are after semi-final Saturday in the Canadian Football League, Sheldon, and also Game 7 Saturday, where the Toronto Blue Jays made it all the way to extra innings with the reigning champion LA Dodgers, but fell 5-4 in extra innings. But man, those two games, Game 6 and 7, the opportunities, like you think about the ball getting lodged, you think about the catcher Will Smith's foot coming off the plate and then back down. Those were some of the craziest baseball games I've ever watched.
Oh yeah, like it is true what they say, like baseball in the playoffs in October just gets amped up to like 1,000 compared to the regular season. It's insane. And yeah, it was tough loss, tough couple losses, when you win Game 5 and you're coming home and because of the stupid way that they do the where the games are played, that you get 2 games in a row at home, and just to come up that short. And the both teams, they put it all on the line. The Dodgers, they have the highest payroll and it shows, and they have all these players, and they know how to play with each other. And the pitching, like Yamamoto, like unreal, like
that little rest and still getting out there and performing like that. Trey Savage tried, not the same effectiveness as Yamamoto. That's a performance. I mean, it's tough to deny,
Oh yeah, and you see like all the in like Ernie Clement, most singles in a postseason. Like I know he doesn't care about that because they didn't win, but just like there was so many like breaking the records or firsts or all of these things, and so it was insane. And just for the Blue Jays to actually get there, I think Jays fans probably realistically thought that maybe they could get there in a couple of years if they were able to lock down Bo and kind of work on their bullpen. I think that's kind of been the issue kind of all season, but just everyone kind of came together, and Bo was playing hurt, Springer was playing hurt.
Yeah, that's pretty, like you could tell every cut he took hurt, and he was still out there trying to make it happen. Now, I bring this up in our little group chat, nobody cares, but the guy that caught the tying home run in the 9th inning threw away like 7 figures.
Well, but it looked like he might have switched the ball. Like there's a
really?
Like he might have pulled a ball out of his pocket and then threw it. Like, so I'm not certain.
Interesting.
You can't 100% tell, but he definitely reaches into his pocket and then puts his hand into the glove and then throws it back. So I'm just like the guy who threw a ball back earlier in the series, and he got like kicked out of the game. So I was kind of worried that guy was going to get kicked out of the game and then possibly miss like them winning the World Series or something like that.
Yeah, could you imagine that?
Well, we have a friend of ours who actually made the trek to Game 7, Janice, and I'm sure if you're not on right now, you're going to be listening to this. So I commend you for your fandom, and for that still, I'm sure it was a once a lifetime, and the highs and the lows of that game must have been incredible. But just that home run that Bo hit, and he knew it, and just hit the stare down, and like I think that was better than Joey's bat flip, to be honest, just for an intense situation there. But it's crazy with the amount of runners that both teams left in scoring position in these games.
It was wild. It's not like the base paths were empty.
No.
Is Bo Bichette going to be back, you think?
I think he will. I think this group knows that they can win now together. They know that they were that close to winning a World Series, and so as long as the Blue Jays are willing to pay Bo what he thinks he's worth, I'm sure he will stay. But they're gonna have to get you Savage under a new deal here soon too, and they're gonna have to, they may be losing a couple. We don't know if Max is gonna come back or not. It seems like he wants to. He said that he doesn't think that's gonna be his last pitches in the major leagues. So yeah,
weren't they last in the AL East last year?
Uh, yeah, I can't remember if they were last or second last, but yeah, like they they've always like even my dad every year he would always be like, "Oh, the Blue Jays are good until the All-Star break, and then they fall apart," and they almost
It
did it
didn't
for this year.
happen this year.
Yeah, no, this year they just got hot, and
Yeah,
they were the comeback kids. They won like over like 56 games or something when they were down.
that's
Like,
wild.
yeah, but it's a smile because it happened kind of thing, because just for them to get there and to go, like I said, shot for shot, it was like a heavyweight fight. It was like a 12 round, 15 round, like it was insane. It's what you want from sports. And you talk about a 7 game series going down, but now in the CFL and what we're about to talk to, every game is game 7, and it just amps it
Yeah.
up to that level too. So we got another couple weeks of that here in CFL football.
Yeah, the games we watched for semifinal weekend were great. And if that's a taste of what's to come, we're in for a great little playoff run. Before we get to the football, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back to talk all things Canadian football during this past weekend. Here are the top 3 catches from the 2025 CFL regular season. Our first entry came in Week 5 when Kenny Lawler of the Hamilton Tiger Cats made this amazing touchdown grab against the Toronto Argonauts. Not very often we're going to see defenses make a list like this, but Robert Carter Jr. of the BC Lions makes the list with this amazing grab. And finally, our number 1 catch of 2025 came in Week 19 in Edmonton, where Ontario Wilson of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers made this circus catch against the Edmonton Elks. Obviously, no shortage of big plays in the Canadian Football League this year. Comment with what catches you think maybe should have made the list. Man, lots of big plays all season long, and lots of big plays on Saturday in the Eastern semifinal in Montreal, where the Alouettes got themselves a hard-fought 42-33 victory over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Man, not easy though, and in the first half, it looked like Winnipeg was done. They were trailing 17-0 after the first quarter. They were trailing 25-6 at halftime. We will get to the second half soon, but right off the bat, it looked like it was going to be one of those days where the Alouettes were just going to stomp the crossover Blue Bombers.
Yeah, I'm a bad CFL fan and completely forgot that they moved the game up. So I joined late, and I already saw in the group message that it was 17 points already. And I honestly didn't think that's how this game was going to start. I thought it was going to be slow. Like I thought it was going to be like a lot closer. I know it got closer in the second half, but I kind of thought that the whole game was going to be like that. But yeah, we the ones, Montreal the one. Does that mean that Davis Alexander's the new tribal chief because he's still undefeated? I have to acknowledge him. I think like he's he's surgical out there. I know he made a couple mistakes, and the Bombers were able to help them come back, but the Montreal Alouettes are just a different team when he's in there, and now it who knows if they're going to be stopped this year. I don't know.
Miglap25 is in our live chat saying Davis Alexander, the GOAT, 12-0. Who will finally defeat him? He says he's the greatest quarterback in Montreal since Anthony Calvillo, which sounds like a pretty big statement, but I also think it's a pretty accurate one. Sometimes I would like to see guys get more of a chance before getting out there and proving it, but man, has it ever shown? He spent time in that Alouette system before getting the reins, and boy, has that ever paid off. Like, he has been developed by that Alouettes organization, and many times we get these guys and they throw them through a training camp and they give them the reins and they struggle and we cast them off and they bounce around a few teams before really catching on to the CFL. But the way they've done it with Davis Alexander, it was the right way to do it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun to see that because the, yeah, like you said, it doesn't happen often. Usually when there's an injury, and then a backup quarterback gets in there and shows a little bit of flash of brilliance, and then they become the next free agent signing for another team. And sometimes it works out, and most of the times it hasn't worked out. And then these guys just keep bouncing around. But they took their time with Davis Alexander, and I think I think realistically they probably would have liked to have another year with him for him to develop under Cody, maybe, but I think they realized that he was at that level where it was time for him to start, and if he didn't get that chance now, then it was going to be with another team. So good for them for making that change and just recognizing the talent that he has.
I love this from Brandon Soros. Made the trek across the border to Percival Molson from New Hampshire. The boys were fire. Hard not to feel like we are unstoppable with Davis in there. And so much swag. Doing those pregame interviews with the tank top on, the white muscle shirt. That takes some serious confidence, I think, to do that. Chris says, double E fan here. Don't talk to me about handled/mishandled quarterbacks. Yeah. Hey, Saskatchewan has developed like one in 110 years. So
Yeah, I was going to say our shade of green knows that too, Chris.
Yeah, 8-Bit Paul, thanks to you for the $5 super chat. You have no idea how much we appreciate that. And Flesh Wound 42 wondering about that roughing the passer call. Now, we'll get to that. I assume maybe you're talking about the Willie Jefferson face mask. Maybe there is another one in there, but clarify in the chat, and we'll get to that soon. But there was big news leading into the game, both on Winnipeg's side. Nick Dembski was out there trying to warm up, so he didn't play. And then the brutal news out of Montreal. I mean, good riddance. Shawn Oakman violating the league's gender-based violence program, so suspended indefinitely, released by the Alouettes. Just so much, wasted. And just sucks to see. I mean, I don't have anything profound to add, but good for the league and the team once they, finally got confirmation of this kind of stuff. And he has a pretty checkered past that they cut him loose and said goodbye pretty quickly.
Yep, kudos to the league and the Owls for handling this quick. They showed that this policy has teeth, and hopefully that is how it is going forward. Like you said, it sucks to see. It sucks that that individual would do that to his team and to because he was an all CFL player this year. He and now they were down, but it didn't seem to matter in the end, and they played on. And when you have a guy like Sean Lemon who's just sitting there waiting to play, I think that kind of makes a little bit of a transition easier. But like you said, I'm just happy that the CFL and the Alouettes did the right thing here.
And Mustafa Johnson, also in the D-line, missed the game just for injury reasons. So I really thought that the Bombers would try to run at them. And again, they didn't. And I know they fell behind in the score. But if I would have just told you the running back lines, where one had 18 carries, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and the other had 8 carries, 38 yards, you might have had the teams backwards, because it was Stevie Scott III that had 18 carries, 133 yards in this one. And I had said a few weeks ago he might be the most important, player in the playoffs here, because the Alouettes finally have a rushing attack, and he's a big guy that those linebackers and those DBs don't want to, face when he's got a full head of steam in the secondary. Now, Flesh Wound did clarify it was the Willie Jefferson one. Before we get there, I want to talk about the pass interferences in this game. Now, I did think that the one on Sneed on Dexter Lawson Jr., A little bit ticky-tack, but he did grab him so he could kind of catch up to him. But then on the next drive, um, I think it was, 2nd and 9, whatever it was, right at the first down marker. Ontario Wilson catches the ball and looks like he gets shoved out of the way. So the flag stays in the pocket. It didn't affect the game outcome, I don't think, but you know what? It gave the ball right back to Montreal, and they hit Tyson Philpott for a 45-yard touchdown. But it's probably more on O'Shea that not challenging it, especially on back-to-back possessions. But I can see why Winnipeg fans early on could be pretty frustrated by those two calls.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I think there was I don't necessarily want to call it a makeup call later in the game, but I think there was another pass interference penalty that was pretty bizarre where it was Stearns, I believe, which was right at the goal line, and he basically just stopped running, and the Montreal guy hit him, knocked him over,
Yeah,
and
that
it was
was weird
pass
too.
interference. So I think with the Wilson one that stayed in, and with that one that I don't think should have really been, it kind of they canceled them out a little bit. Except Winnipeg did get a touchdown with that Stearns one because it was right at the goal line there.
And that Jefferson call, man, he did like barely touch the face. That kind of gets called every time. Like I'm
Yeah.
not thrilled with it, but it did kind of look like Alexander also grabbed, or at least he pushed on the face mask of Willie as well. I mean, especially when it's not intentional and he clearly let go, that can get very frustrating. But I've seen a lot of criticism of actually Willie Jefferson online, just basically saying that after Big Hill left, that defense did not have the leadership qualities anymore that Big Hill brought to the table. So we've seen at times this year Willie get frustrated. He took I think he headbutt a guy in the summer in a Lions game. Maybe that's not his style, like Adam Bighill, but maybe a veteran like that kind of expected of him a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to say anything really bad about Willie Jefferson, just because I think he's one of the best players in the league, and I think he's one of the players that you can market, and depending on how much longer he plays, just with his knockdown ability and stuff like that. But I've never really got the feeling that he was like a locker room leader type of guy. I just kind of felt like he was a really good player who fit in with the scheme and all that stuff. Like I so I don't think he is that person on there. And you, like you say, we've seen frustrations all around that team this season with just they're not used to losing. They're not used to being not first place. They had 5 West Finals in a row. This time they had to cross over and finish 4th place. So um, frustrating year for Winnipeg fans. And I saw that coming out in the players too, like you said.
Brandon Soros, a Montreal Alouettes season ticket holder from New Hampshire, says, as someone that pays for season tickets and feels a strong sense of connection to the team, I felt proud of the Owls for doing the right thing and cutting ties. I do add that he's an Alouettes fan because he says the call against West Sutton when their feet got tied up in the end zone was terrible, not PI. And that might have been the Jarrett Stearns one, I think. But yeah, I kind of agree as well there. So yeah, there were things going both ways on the teams. You're right when it comes to that, but I think maybe the game going differently than I thought it would, because I did think that the Alouettes defense or the Bomber defense would be able to keep them in it, but they were just overmatched on both sides of the ball, and there will be a touchdown. Did that happen in the second half? Where they were all pushing Stevie? I think it did.
Yeah,
that touchdown, it was fun.
Very fun, but not the right call.
I thought that was against. I thought they put this new rule in when the O-line gets pushing that's illegal now, isn't it?
Well,
am I thinking the wrong league or?
Well, I know, or I'm pretty sure they took the tush push out of the NFL because of that. But no, like I think the rule is you can a pile can keep moving and you can add to the pile, but I'm pretty sure you can't push the player itself from behind. But if like everyone is part of a thing, you can push other, like you can indirectly, as long as the player's forward motion hasn't stopped, which on this play it did.
He was
So
going
it should have been
backwards. Yeah.
blown. It should have been blown dead. But again, when we're sitting at home or the
Yeah.
fans there, and you see that type of play happen, because I remember a game at Old Mosaic Stadium, Old Taylor Field, and I think it was Zarka, or Zarka might have helped, but they moved like 20 yards to get a touchdown, and it was insane with all the O linemen there. And so I understand how fun that can be, but yeah, that was a scoring play, and all scoring plays should be reviewed, and it should have been corrected. And that's another thing that coming up here that we're going to talk about too. But when it was Winnipeg challenged the spot. They challenged a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's a potential scoring play. That should be That should be reviewed automatically anyway. So they shouldn't have had to waste a challenge on that. And you're 9 times out of 10, you're not going to win a challenge when it comes to the spot of the ball.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Matt Damon saying you can push a pile but not a carrier, which
So
is
so just say
interesting.
that just what Sheldon said, Matt. That
Okay.
just agree with me.
And he also said, I'm just a floating head today wearing my Cabela's camo. So the second half starts. And right off the bat, there you go. Yeah, it was that Wes Sutton, Jarrah Stearns play that got the Bombers right down to the goal line. So they get that touchdown right off the bat. Big play to Gavin Cobb in that drive as well, 27 yards. And then the next drive, Cam Allen of the Bombers picks off Davis Alexander. And then
Yeah.
Ontario Wilson gets hit for a touchdown. We're less than 4 minutes into this thing, and the Bombers are within 5.
Yeah, and in our group chat, we're talking about how the Bombers have had a good run out and stuff, and then it's just like eye emojis, like they, yeah, they just prove that in the CFL anything can happen and momentum can swing, and momentum is just so crazy because once you get one huge play, and especially on the road, and you can cut that fan base, and you can just make it quiet in there, and then you follow it up with another one. It's just momentum is a hell of a drug, man.
And then the next drive, Tyson Philpott, who had a great game. We'll go through his stat line later on here, but Jamal Parker forces the fumble. Evan Holm returns at 36 yards, and then it's Bomber ball, trailing by 5 at the Montreal 26. Of course, another pass interference in this one from Lorenzo Burns gets the ball right down to the 1 yard line. Terry Wilson gets into the end zone, and the Bombers are now leading by 2. And at this point, now this is the test for Davis Alexander, the young quarterback. How does he respond to adversity like this? How does he get back on the horse? And man, yeah, ice in his veins. That, well, I mean, a 31-yard return from James Letcher Jr. doesn't help, but he hits Austin Mack on the next drive for 50 yards, and then Stevie Scott III is in the end zone with a 13-yard touchdown, and the Alouettes get the lead back in this one. So that response from the Alouettes, huge.
Yeah, that catch from Mack was huge. That was not an easy catch for him to secure it. Like, because just watching the replay of that catch, he not only catches it, but I think like he realized that the ball was going to hit the ground, and so he like turned his body to make sure that he cradled it, and still like it was insane catch. Yeah, they just we've seen this happen with a lot of quarterbacks in the past. Zach Collaros being one of them. Chad Kelly the year that the Argos won, where it just seemed like some teams and some offenses, but the quarterbacks can just answer like that, and anytime that you feel like the other team is coming back, they just find a way just to get it right back in the end zone in short order, and that's exactly what Davis Alexander and the Montreal Alouettes did.
And then Brady Oliveira, the MOP last year, the MOC last
I
year,
remembered.
he gets the ball but fumbles it.
Yep.
And hey, props to the Alouette defense for making that play. But you're considered one of the best players in the CFL, one of the most important players on your team. Sometimes I watch these plays, I'm like, holy crap, how do these guys hang on to the ball? But Brady O has to protect the ball there.
He's definitely got to protect the ball there. I'm assuming he's probably got some other stuff on his mind, like why the hell he's not getting the ball. And they're professionals, and he's a professional, and it's a do or die game, and so you have to just make the most of whenever your number is called. But yeah, you you got to hold on to the ball there. It was a point of the game where the Bombers were back in it; they weren't out of it, and they they really needed to be able to answer back to that touchdown there, and they just weren't able to do it.
And then, yeah, it was that next drive after the fumble. Jefferson gets that roughing the passer on a big stop on 2nd and 11, extends the drive. Stevie Scott gets into the end zone. That ends up being enough points to win the game there because Zach gets picked off at the end of the game by Darnell Sankey, who, by the way, had a pretty impressive vertical on that interception. But I totally thought it was going to be the Winnipeg offense that was going to lose them the game. And I know Brady fumbled the ball there, but it was that defense from the Bombers that really lost it for them. And props to Davis Alexander and what that Als offense brings to the table. Miglap 25 saying the Als had more than 500 yards of offense in this one. Like, it was like, really, other than that beginning of the third quarter, this game could have got really ugly here. 556 yards of net offense by the Montreal Alouettes, and they had the ball for 36 minutes and 39 seconds. The fact that Winnipeg only lost by 9 is pretty wild, actually. But it kind of followed the formula that Winnipeg season did. Not controlling the ball clock enough, not protecting the ball enough. Those 2 fumbles and an interception in this one. That sums up the season for them. So before we talk about Montreal going forward, maybe we just talk about Winnipeg going forward. I looked at their potential free agent list that John Hodge put out on 3downnation.com, and it really seems like basically the only guy under contract for next year is Zach Collaros. Brady Oliveira is a free agent. A lot of the defense, including Willie Jefferson, are potential free agents. Mike O'Shea, Kyle Walters, is this rebuild time in Winnipeg? Stanley Brown, a lot of the old linemen, free agents too. It seems like this is going to look like a completely new blue and gold team, and respect to what they have achieved since 2019. It is a run that we have not seen in the CFL for a long, long time. Getting to the Grey Cup that many years in a row, but it feels like, this era it's over.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something that maybe they can figure out this off season. Whoever is going to be there, when the Bombers lost Dalton Schoen, I think that took away a lot of their deep playability. And I know they still had Ontario Wilson and Wheatfall and but it just seemed like Schoen was one of the key people that they needed to have success. And then now they lost Dembski, so they were down Dembski and Schoen, and it just seemed like their offensive coordinator, who wasn't using Brady Oliveira, he just didn't know how to use his passing without those two. So they got to take a hard look in the mirror. But if I'm Mike O'Shea, what else do you have left to do in Winnipeg? You've won a couple Grey Cups there. You've brought that team to the highest heights of fandom in the CFL right now. They are the model franchise when it comes to the fans and the just selling out every game this year. That's a hell of an achievement for them. You got a team in Ottawa that needs a head coach. You, is it time for a new change of scenery for him? I don't know. Like if I'm Ottawa, if I'm Sean Burke, I'm dangling that carrot pretty uh, right at him. And like you said, if Zach's the only major guy left under contract, if you're Brady Oliveira, do you want to go back there after this season that you had? Like you still, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the stats and all that stuff, yeah, good season. It could have been so much more if he was effectively used properly. It could have been like record setting more. And you could tell he was frustrated early on in the season. So could yeah, I don't know, man. Like I think it all depends on what O'Shea and Miller are gonna do. If they're staying, then I don't think it's a rebuild, it's a retool. But if I don't know if Mike O'Shea wants to go through a rebuild either. Like I don't know if that's
Well, then why would he go to Ottawa?
well, but I'm saying there. I'm saying like there's not that challenge. Like he already did it once, I guess, in Winnipeg, and maybe yeah, you could do it again. But I'm just like Ottawa could be like that's a team that needs this. That's a team that needs to show their fans that they care, and that you bring in a winning coach like that. Like he had a Hall of Fame playing career, and you could probably already say that he's had a Hall of Fame coaching career.
I think the only thing for those guys is if maybe he wants to add GM
Yeah,
to the
maybe.
role. I don't know. I think maybe some teams are becoming more hesitant because we've
Hmm.
had those coach slash GMs struggle in recent years. Obviously, Dave Dickinson was able to figure it out this past off season and get back to the dance and drastically improve in one off season. But then I just look at some of the choices that had been. Now I see Bomber fans saying this like fire Jordan Younger. That defense did not pressure Davis Alexander enough in this game. And then I see them firing the offensive coordinator, Jason Hogan, the fans. Now, do you think they would have made those hires anyway? Or were they coaches cap hires, just hiring internally? And I do like the idea of hiring internally and things like that, but I wonder if those were hires because of the current system in place.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And like you said, it's kind of hard for us to say how we like to see the internal growth of Davis Alexander and not say that we don't appreciate seeing that in coaching because I think we do want to see new coaches. We want to see these coaches being built in their organizations, but this operations cap hinders that a lot. And you could be correct. Like I'm still surprised that they have Richie Hall on staff, but that might be just because of the coaches cap and because he was under contract previously. Like I don't know, but um, hopefully, like we keep saying it, like a broken record. Hopefully, that's one of these more changes that Stuart Johnson has promised to come in the next few weeks after the Grey Cup. I hope that is something, but we'll just have to see what which path they choose in Winnipeg. But again, fans, like just because you're hitting your first little bit of adversity, and I know losing multiple Grey Cups in a row is also adversity, but you guys have had to have a pretty epic run that has never really been rivaled before. Like I know the Elks or the former team winning all those Grey Cups in the 80s there is a pretty impressive feat that probably will never get broken. But this was a run that you guys should be proud that you were on, and I would kill to have that as a Rider fan. Like you guys somebody kind of chirped me on Twitter today. You guys got to go to more Grey Cups than the Riders have ever won in the last 5 years. Like, so that's smile because it happened. Okay, smile.
Vicky says some fans want to fire everyone, but they know enough to make these declarations? That is a very fair point. Vicky, the Bomber fan, looking forward to being in your fair city in a couple weeks for the 112th Grey Cup, friendly Manitoba. I had a great time there in 2015. Looking forward to being there 10 years later. But yeah, fans make the emotional decisions, and the Twitter, that when that emotions can go through your thumbs instantly to the World Wide Web, that makes it pretty tough. What those Alouettes here, talked about Stevie Scott, Tyson Philpott, 10 catches, 135 yards. Charleston Rambo, man, some catches to him. And Alexander, the accuracy on those throws too, ridiculous. 5 catches, 95 yards in this one. Austin Mack, 3 catches, 98 yards. Brandon Soros saying Austin's Mac's mom was sitting behind us. She got up for a few minutes when that little flurry of bad luck happened in the third quarter. When she came back to her seat, Mac made the 50-yard catch. Everyone told her she cannot leave her seat for the rest of the game. Speaking of people complaining, people complained about the air horns in Montreal. Now I see them complaining about the vuvuzelas in Montreal. All I see is a bunch of people that are anti-fun. It's crazy.
Yeah. To be honest, I think I miss the air horns compared to the vuvuzelas. I don't know why. I miss that high pitch. I miss that high pitch thing on my Montreal broadcast. And hello, Tim. Yes, nice shirt. I agree. It's a good one. Yeah.
They're
I
a
don't know.
team that I do not think anyone wants to run into in the playoffs.
No.
The Ticats, they probably, the coaches won't tell you that they're nervous, but I would think that the fans probably a little bit nervous right now.
Yeah. I think, yeah, if you're one of the other 4 teams that are still, or other 3 teams that are still, I know that the Riders have to prepare for BC and vice versa, BC preparing for the Riders, but I know that both teams don't want to play Montreal right now because they are just, it just seems like a couple years ago when they were just on that track with Cody and just, they were that team that no one expected could do it. They were the cast-offs from the Riders, and they just moved over to Montreal and with Moss and Fajardo, of course, and they were able to just take that kind of underdog mentality, kind of like what the Las Vegas Golden Knights did in the NHL when they were just the players that the teams didn't care, and they all went to a new team and they all gelled and they went to the Stanley Cup their first season, right? So I think that yeah, I don't want to play Montreal. I somehow hope that when that Hamilton is able to beat them, because if the Riders are in the Grey Cup, I am going to be a nervous wreck the entire week just thinking about what Davis Alexander is going to do to Fields and all these guys.
I want to give a shout out to a couple defensive players on the Alouettes before we go to the West semi. One is Tyrese Beverette. I put in our group chat that the guy's an animal, and he is. Mm-hmm. 4 tackles in this one, 1 sack, 2 special team tackles. The guy's all over the place. And Isaac Adiemi Berglund, quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the CFL. 4 tackles in this one, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles. The Nova Scotia native is having a season in Montreal. Reminded me of him when you said, "This is Montreal. This is Montreal." Yeah. Man, if they win the Grey Cup, I might have to get some of that eye black. But I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know how easily it comes off.
Oh, it's easy.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Oh, it's easy. Yeah. Well, you don't have to get the actual eye black. That you just get face paint. It's fine.
Okay.
Tim with some good numbers in here. Second down conversions, Bombers 20%, Alouettes 69.6. Nice.
And I heard Lapo comparing the two. Didn't the Bombers only have 2 second down conversions? Wow. The fact that they only lost by what they did is actually that run in the third quarter. That was remarkable. Okay, We'll take another break here. We'll be back with the Western semifinal. Here are the 3 hardest hits from the 2025 CFL regular season. Hit number 3 takes us to week 4 in Regina, where Riders defensive back Marcus Sales connected with Lions running back James Butler. Hit number 2 takes us to week 16 in the nation's capital, where all CFL linebacker Adarius Pickett of the Red Blacks connected with Blue Bombers receiver Carrick Wheatfall. And finally, week 20 at BC Place in Vancouver, when Robert Carter Jr., rookie defensive back for the BC Lions, hit Curly Gittens Jr. of the Edmonton Elks. Comment with any big hits that maybe you thought should have made the top 3. Now, when I was building that big hit reel, the thing is, there were other big hits, but some that had flags on them. So I wanted to get hits that had no flags on the play. And man, there's still some hard hits in the CFL, man.
Yeah, there has been a lot of hard hits, and yeah, some of them, not quite legal, but those 3 in particular, just bone crushing and all within the rules, and those are the type of hits that you want to see.
Yeah, and most of the players did walk off the field, so that's also important to add. It feels wrong in 2025 to still like the big hit, but I like the big hit.
Yeah. Oh, it's all the air that gets sucked out of their lungs when it gets hit and just gets added to the stadiums. It's insane. But like you said, we want to see them walk off, but we love hearing those hits.
The BC Lions get by the Calgary Stampeders 33-30 in the Western semifinal. Now, this one feels like, look, the Alouettes had 36 minutes time of possession. They won the East semifinal. The Stamps had the ball for 36 minutes in the Western semifinal and lost. And it felt like a game that and no disrespect to the BC Lions, that this is a game that Calgary lost rather than BC won. And some mistakes made by Dave Dickinson, and maybe you include Vernon Adams in there, but critical mistakes by guys that have been in the league for a long, long time, and we'll get to them, but that cost them the game here.
Yeah, it's funny because I think, ourselves included, I think these games kind of played out opposite as to how we kind of thought they were going to play out. I think that while Winnipeg made it closer in the third quarter there, it was a physically dominating win by Montreal, and I think we kind of thought that BC would have that physically dominating win over Calgary, just at home with all things considered, but. Yeah, BC's defense showed that they're still susceptible to the big play and just, teams being able to move on them. And yeah, in spite of some really, really head-scratching decisions by Dave Dickinson, and like you said, VA, like a little bit, but I'd put a lot of that more on Dave Dickinson calling the plays that he called, and VA just trying to do his best on those plays. But if I was a Stamps fan, my head would look like yours because my hair would be pulled out just because of the way that the first half ended and the second half ended.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaking loss. And another one of the it's without a doubt. I mean, obviously, we'll go through the game here. The BC Lions on special teams, that really won them the game. Like right off the bat. That field goal from the Lions was after a 55-yard return from Seven McGee. And we'll talk about another return that happened in the second half here. But special teams, a huge factor in the BC Lions winning this. And that has been a bit of a struggle for the Lions in recent years. So for them to have the special teams on track, that is big for them. Playing as a true team. You have to have all those 3 phases lifting you up to get those victories, and it was the special teams here in this one that did it for them.
Yeah, they've kind of had that one that one tripod of the special teams consistently. Shawn White, he's been consistently one of the best field goal kickers in the league the past few seasons, and uh, they had really good punting into the scoreboard last season. But I think, like you said, they were just
Meyer had some ridiculous
yeah,
punts in this one too.
yeah,
He could
yeah,
flip the
yeah.
field pretty good.
Oh, 100%. That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah, like
Okay, yeah.
they all kind of came together in this game because you had a dynamic return, you had excellent punting, and you had the kickers on target, right? So, yeah, that was the difference for BC. They because if they didn't get that play, then Calgary could have still won in spite of the terrible coaching decisions.
It was kind of a slower first half, but that Calgary's D line, they were dominant. I kind of think like most expected. And they made the Lions work for every single yard. Like that first Lions touchdown where Mazzoli punched it in there, which is
Hmm.
rough. I mean, you take the offside on a 2nd and 2, which I thought was a weird play call. That was a long quarterback sneak. And then Calgary took an offside. You can't take an offside there. And
Yeah.
like I said, like they made Calgary work for, or BC work for every yard. Rourke got sacked twice on that drive. They took a holding penalty on that drive and still got into the end zone. Like,
Yeah.
I guess sometimes the talent and the firepower that those Lions have, they'll go for stretches without scoring, and then just the bunches come, and it's hard to stop. But an offside on the goal line, that has to be the bane of every coach's existence. And I think it was a rookie, Sambu, that took it. That's a tough one.
I just from my own fandom, I know just in the past 5 years, like it would probably take more than my hand to count the amount of times that I've witnessed at Mosaic Stadium the Riders being offside on those kind of plays. And yeah, it kills you. It kills any momentum. It just gives basically when it's on the goal line like that and you're just giving another three chances, it's it breaks the back of momentum, and it's tough. But yeah, BC was not able to do anything on the ground here, and they still were able to make it happen. I don't understand that really. Like
Yeah, they couldn't
Nathan
run the
wasn't.
ball.
Yeah.
James Butler had, and he has an ankle issue. Like there were
Mhm.
rumblings that he might not be able to go. But he had 7 carries, 25 yards. Leading rusher again was Nathan Rourke, and we'll get to the big touchdown that he scored. Big run that he had on the ground. I thought they'd maybe give the ball to Horvath more. He has shown that he is a physical runner, and he can make plays happen. He only got 2 carries in this one, so the running game, again, it's sort of a weird game because the Lions didn't
Yeah.
have that many big sustained drives and not that many yards, but still pulling out the victory. Again, that special teams so important. And that brings us to the end of the first half, where the Lions had themselves a 13-7 lead. Calgary getting the ball back with about 40 seconds to go. Big gain to Dominic Rhymes, so they're almost in field goal range, basically in field goal range, and they get down to the BC 19. They take that timeout, and then Vernon Adams Jr. starts scrambling around, completes the pass to Tevin Jones, and no points. You cannot get into that point of the field and leave with no points. Like that is whether it's on the quarterback or on the coach or both or one, it doesn't really matter who. You can't make that mistake, especially in a playoff game. Points on the board
Yeah.
cannot be left out there with none to be taken advantage of. That's bad for the Stampeders.
100%. And like I said, this one you can kind of blame it on VA a little bit, but BC they knew to call pressure there. Like if they knew that at this time, if they can force VA to run around a little bit, that just takes time off the clock. And I'm sure they were just as surprised as all of us when it wasn't Rene Paredes coming out to kick that like 26 yard field goal or whatever it would have been, because not only you've gotten points at the end there, they got the ball back first in the second half. So you have a chance to double dip. And I know that Dave Dickinson was thinking, oh, we could score a touchdown and then get another touchdown. But in a playoff game on the road, it would have cut the lead to 13-10 at halftime instead of 13-7. And it's just momentum you take in. But just for Dave Dickinson to even call a pass there, like if you're calling a pass, I think it was 8 seconds left, 8 seconds when,
Something like that. Yep.
or 6 seconds or whatever.
Yep.
But like you have to, it has to be bang bang. It has to be a hot route. Like there should be no chance for VA to even think about scrambling. And so that's why I blame it more on Dave Dickinson, because he didn't have a hot route in there for whatever reason. But at the same time, if you're not gonna throw to the end zone, what are you even doing?
Yeah. What's the point?
Just kick the field goal. Like uh, again, these coaches, they get inside their heads and they,
Playoffs on the road.
yeah, you always take the points. You always take the points. This like I said, I it's not a secret that the Calgary Stampeders are like the team that I dislike the most in the league. It's not a secret, but I could feel so much for those Stamp fans in that moment just because of how bad that coaching decision was, and just uh,
I know that you are hesitant to put the blame on VA, but I don't know, man. He's
well, no,
scrambling it.
he
He's
definitely
scrambling
gets
around out
blamed
there.
for
Yeah.
scrambling
Yeah.
because he also has to know that he has to get that ball out of there quick.
Yeah.
But at that time, if you're scrambling, then you have to find the guy who's in the end zone. So for sure, he gets a blame. But it's just why are you putting your quarterback out in that position when you could just kick a field goal?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So the third quarter starts, and then this is where the fireworks start in this game. Like, man, what a great pair of games we had here. Stamps punt, and Seven McGee gets a 19-yard punt return. That's pretty darn good on a punt return. And then on second down, second and long, Rourke breaks a 44-yard run. And his rushing talent cannot be overstated here. He punishes teams. He had that 70-yarder against Edmonton here. That 44-yarder here did a lot to set up his rushing touchdown that he got to put the Lions up 20-7. The speed that he shows, and he doesn't do it all the time. He's one of the toughest quarterbacks to sack, and when he takes off, it's impressive.
Oh, for sure. He he's huge when you like think of what they're usually tackling when a running back. But just before that, I want to gloss over it. Like Calgary had the ball first and they went 2 and out. They got sacked. Like they had every chance to try to even gain some of that momentum back that they lost because of not getting that field goal, and they just lost it. But back to Rourke, yeah, like that's just such a dagger. Like that's the crowd is already kind of at a high because they come out in the second half. You force a 2 and out, you get a big sack, and then for Rourke just to barrel down the field 44 yards, and then the next play or 2 plays later, he gets in there again. Like that would have just been electric in BC Place for just that little stretch of time. Like incredible.
Yeah, 8-Bit Paul saying that it's such a joy watching Rourke's elusiveness. I think the O-line would get a lot of heat if he didn't scramble so well. I agree, but that Calgary D-line was all over that O-line, but Rourke is able to escape sometimes and make these plays. And then Jalen Philpott, Calgary's Philpott had a great game in this one because the Stamps come alive and he gets that great 30-yard touchdown catch, and the Stamps are right in this game. Philpott ends the game with 7 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Even though that one was a touchdown, my opinion says that wasn't his best catch of the game. So we're gonna have to get there because, man, they've had a great one. And if Jalen and Tyson had ever play in a Grey Cup, that would be quite the battle.
Oh yeah, that would be epic.
It would be. And then we'll keep going here because it'll just show you how really the Stampeders they beat themselves on this one, and it's tough to watch. Right after that Philpott touchdown, they kick off to Robert Carter Jr. Yes, it had been Seven McGee doing the returns, but it looked like maybe they kicked away from him. Robert Carter Jr. takes that thing 95 yards for the touchdown. So what can't this guy do on a football field? Like, we've played 2 highlight reels during the show here. One of the biggest catches of the year, by the way, it was an interception. One of the biggest hits of the year on Curly Gittens Jr. And now he's taking a return to the house, and he is not the Western nominee for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, it's baffling. I don't get it. I don't get it. But he's a hell of a player.
Oh, I just hope that they're able to keep this guy in the CFL. We've seen a few guys that come up and have a good year. Maybe he's a little. I don't know if he's a little small for the NFL. I'm not sure. But his athleticness, is that a word?
Athleticism.
Oh, there we go. Name of the
there,
pod.
see, I can help you. I can help you with words too.
I'm great with names, terrible with words. But I mean, the season he's had has just been on. What a joy to watch this guy.
100%.
I'm trying to find the CFL awards. Who is the rookie nominee for the West? Off the top of your head.
Vavel.
Oh, okay. I'd still give it to Robert Carter, man.
I mean, Vavel's going to win Special Teams Player of the Year, so that you got to give him rookie, I think, at that point. But I agree. It sucks for players.
I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because I don't know if I'd give Robert Carter the Defensive Player of the Year, but still be rookie. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, no, I get that, but I'm saying, like, Vavel is a shoe-in to win the Special Teams Player, so that makes him. I think that just makes him. He should get the rookie, but it doesn't take anything away from Carter. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And again, what I was saying is, like, the players in the league the players would never agree to this because it takes away money potentially from contracts and earning bonuses and whatnots. But like I said before, I think this year we're going to have 2 players each winning 2 awards, and maybe there should be a rule that you can only be up for 1 award to spread that love out to a little bit more. I don't know.
No, I think when you were saying
is that participation?
Like,
sorry, yeah, I hate it. I want someone to win 3 awards.
As you were saying it, you're like, no.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I couldn't even keep it going to try to be a controversial take on here. Screw that participation noise. Okay.
But you know what? The Stamps, they kept responding here. Like, after that touchdown, they got another touchdown drive there. Clark Barnes getting into the end zone there, and Dedrick Mills. I mean, he was a monster on that drive, and why not? Leading rusher in the CFL, 14 carries, 111 yards, almost 8 yards a carry in this one. He had 25 receiving yards as well, 26. A great season for him in red and white. And then the fourth quarter comes along, and Calgary's trailing 27-21. They get the ball and they get into the end zone. Would you look at that? Quincy Vaughn rushes it in there. And that pass interference on Gary Peters, I thought was, if we're talking Gary Peters, I thought that was a silly call too.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But got into the end zone there. Either way.
Speaking
What's up?
speaking about officials, how the hell did Valesi's crew get to do a playoff game? Like Andre Proulx is standing on the sidelines in Montreal, being the guy to talk to Mike O'Shea, and Valesi gets to do a game in the playoffs. Give me a break. Continue.
And then Rene Paredes, one of the greatest kickers of our generation, misses the point after. So if you're keeping score, that's 4 points left on the board in a very close playoff game by the Calgary Stampeders. Then, another possession later, that Calgary defense does their job. They get the ball in their offense's hands again. The score, well, it was supposed to get to the offense's hands again. Tied at 27 with a big Jalen Hutchings sack on Nathan Rourke on 2nd and 4. And then Eric Brooks fumbles the ball. Oh, man. And the Lions get it back. They take a 30-27 lead. But hang on, Stampeders respond with a field goal of their own. But Sheldon, more clock management issues. A massive catch to Jalen Philpott for 42 yards. Deontay Williams, he's the one that I referenced earlier for big hits on the season and taking flags in the process. By the way, when I was looking at hitting highlights, and I think there's still a Double E fan in the chat, Arkell Smith took an absolute beating in 2025. This guy should get free massages for life. He took 2 massive hits from Deontay Williams of the BC Lions. Then he took another big hit from Jamal Peters of the Hamilton Tiger Cats in September. All 3 hits ended up getting flagged. But it looked like all 3 catches, he was pretty left out to dry by his quarterback. But Arkell Smith, one of the, I think, toughest, like, I take one of those hits, my career is over. But Philpott gets hammered by a hard hitter. The point stands and hangs onto that ball. So, the Stamps are at the BC 31. 44 seconds left.
44 seconds.
And what they do is take 2 home run shots to the end zone to get the lead, both incomplete. And they kick a field goal with 33 seconds left. Like, that decision making, like you said, the play calls were there, but to me, I think VA is trying to be the hero in his old stomping grounds, and the terrible decisions there and poor use of the clock in the 4th quarter.
I agree that he was trying his best to get that home run ball, but again, I have to put this on coaching, because if you're a coach in that situation, you need to understand that it's not about your quarterback who's playing his former team in the former place trying to win like that. You're just trying to win regardless. And you have, let's look back at the stats here. Mills. Oh yeah, do you remember him? Dedrick Mills, running back, 111 yards, 7.9 yard average. You give him the ball twice, you get up the field another maybe 10 or 15 yards, and you kick a field goal with zeros on the clock. So I understand giving, like, that VA needs to take some responsibility for those deep shots and not taking any time off the clock. But Dave Dickinson's the one who called passing plays there. He didn't call running plays. And so I think if you're VA in that situation, you're like, okay, he's telling me to throw the ball, so I got to throw this ball. And it's reckless, because you're risking interceptions, you're risking you're risking missing a field goal, I guess, technically too, but it's just Dave Dickinson was playing to in a playoff game when you have it's that close and you can just push overtime with zeros on the clock. That's what you need to do because then you give your team a chance at the mini games and it's the playoffs. There's going to be no ties. If you just keep going as long as you feel like your team can win in overtime, that's what you got to do. And it's just this. If I was a Stamp fan, I would want Dave Dickinson fired for this. I don't want him back because that you just prove that you can't manage the game. You can't manage the time in the most important game so far of the year. Not only in the first half, but in the second half too. It's just brutal.
Do you think he'll be back?
To be honest, I do,
I don't think
but
they've had a playoff win since 2018. So that's when they
maybe
won the
yeah,
Grey Cup. Now,
maybe
now, could he just be GM? Because I think
yeah.
he's proved this year. I mean, the personnel they brought, they changed every starter on defense, and it worked.
It did work, and I think this is the first season where I actually feel like he did a good job as a GM. But again, I still kind of feel like him being a GM is taken away from him coaching, and so maybe he does just go to GM, but that Ottawa job might be another place for him to start fresh and to try to because maybe Sean Burke is willing to just take a president role instead of being a GM, and that's maybe a way that he can get a guy like O'Shea there or Dickinson there or even Ryan Dinwiddie. I know that they're floating that on Three Down Nation too. That maybe if you dangle a GM at Ryan Dinwiddie, he might choose to leave Toronto and go to Ottawa. Uh, but with Dave Dickinson being the GM, yeah, you go ahead.
I want to throw this out there because Marshall Ferguson threw it out there. Auburn's head coach got fired, where Kent Austin is currently the quarterback coach. I don't know if he wants to come back to the CFL, but Hamilton fans were twitchy. Rider fans were like, they're intrigued.
I I would love to see Kent Austin on the sidelines. He's another one of those coaches where, he's good for, it's just something to laugh at, like his reactions or something. I think he's a really good coach. I think he has a certain way of doing things and maybe that hasn't worked. It worked in Saskatchewan, didn't really work in Hamilton in the end, but it, I would like
Two
to see him
tough Grey
back.
Cup losses like in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry Burris to Calgary maybe instead of Ottawa.
Wow. Wow. I love
Dave
this. The
Dickinson
two
as
and
the
out rumor
GM.
mill is churning.
Yeah, yeah. But
So then,
again, but again, with Dickinson being the GM and the head coach, like for him to actually get fired, that's gonna have to come from like the team president and that or the
right.
board of governors or whatever. So that's uh that's a tough tale. And then, for the good of the team, maybe he should just accept that GM role, but who do you have to take over the head coach? Because I think the plan always was for Killam to be that guy, but I think Dickinson just waited too long to make that move.
And I know I said, BC or Calgary lost this game more than BC won, but we've seen it multiple times this year. The way this Lions offense can move the ball in such a quick way. Remember that during the summer? I'm sure the Lions fans will remember where they had barely any time, like 4 seconds on the clock, and they had like a 15-yard play to get into field goal. Everybody's thinking Hail Mary. And and that's what the CFL like to have the waggle. That's why they have that play.
Mhm.
Anyway, which was incredible. So, like you said, maybe the Stamps should be kind of cautious, kill the clock, run the ball. If they can't get a first down, well, oh well, we're going overtime. So when the Lions had a running play on, their own 26-yard line with like 25 seconds left, I was thinking maybe BC's playing for overtime. This is kind of weird.
That
But
was brilliant.
he got the clock moving. They hit Berryhill for 15 yards. And then that 28-yarder to Justin McInnes to get Sean White into field goal range to kick that 43-yarder. with time expiring. Like, that was just masterful.
Hmm. Because what you do in that situation, and like this is like a separating the men from the boys. I think you show the Calgary players that are on that field, and even the coaches with that run, you show that you're conceding and you're going to overtime, and you're fine with that. And that just, I think that makes the players that aren't dialed in 100%, that maybe took a little bit off of them. And they're like, okay, we're going to overtime. Let's mentally start to prepare for overtime without realizing that they still had another, 16 seconds left on the clock after that run there. And they did exactly what VA needed to do and wasn't able to do early on. And that's effectively use the clock to your advantage so that you can get your kicker who's made like 85 or 90% of his field goals this season. And when it's from 43 yards and it's Shawn White, that's pretty much automatic. And I just I was just in such disbelief watching the last 5 or 10. Like I didn't even turn on the World Series yet because I was like, this is crazy. Like this is more, I'm more entertained by the ending of this game right now than the first inning or who is throwing out the first pitch or all of that stuff of the World Series. And I'm glad I did because I'm glad I got to witness that collapse and come back and win walk-off style, at least for one of the games on that night.
It still, to me, feels like the Stampeders are a pretty young team, and it broke my heart to see Vernon Adams' heart broken there. And
Hmm.
man, that's the tough thing about sports. There has to be a loser. There has to
Yeah.
be a winner. I think they'll be. I think they'll be back. I think they'll be fine. There's a lot of young players there that are only going to have more experience under their belt. However, I don't know all the contract situations there. Some of those guys prove they can play in the CFL. They might want a few more bucks as well. So Calgary does have their work, cut out for them there. And then BC heads to Regina here for the Western Final. And Sheldon, before the show, you were telling me that you're already worried about the Western Final. You're already nervous. But man, and I've said it several times. The quick strike offense, and they score in bunches in BC. But they really had to work to get that win against Saskatchewan's backups, and they had a tough time here against Calgary as well. I feel like maybe there is a blueprint out there to rattle Nathan Rourke. To do it for a full 60 minutes, I don't know if that's possible, but Saskatchewan's D-line is no slouch either, and the BC O-line is going to have to play a bit better. I think they're going to need to, and Saskatchewan's not easy to run against either, but they're going to have to try to keep that D-line guessing if they're going to have success at Mosaic Stadium.
Yeah, I am nervous. I think that's just, how it is when you're in a winner take one game playoff here. But I think just after reviewing this game and like you said, thinking about what happened when these two teams met the last time, it makes my uneasiness go away a little bit because like we said, VA was still able to go 22 for 33, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like that's numbers that if that's Trevor Harris's stat line next week, I think the Riders win because if they're able to control the like to keep the ball, not turn it over, and if they're able to get a similar rushing yards from AJ Ouellette, there's definitely a recipe to beat BC. I say even more so than Calgary. I think I would have been more nervous with Calgary coming, to be honest. So I think I've changed a little bit, but I am still going to have those butterflies, that nervousness this whole week. It's win or go home, and I
It's
think
the
the
Western
Riders.
Final, baby, and you got tickets for the Grey Cup.
Well, I don't have tickets yet, but thankfully,
Oh, okay.
because of what happened on Saturday, there will be plenty of tickets available for me to
And
even cheaper.
I hope that Bomber fans show up and make it
They still
hard.
will.
If it's the
Yeah.
Riders, like show up and make it hell on the
Oh
green
yeah.
team. I
Yeah.
think it would be hilarious.
we did that in 2023, so I think that's or 2022, whatever year it was here. We were definitely all cheering for the Argos that game, and it made Mosaic quite loud when the Bombers were on offense. But uh, there are going to be people who aren't going, and that's unfortunate. But us Rider fans or BC Lions fans or Montreal or Hamilton, we will scoop those up, and it's going to be a wonderful time in Winnipeg, and you don't get to say that very often, to be honest.
But BC, they have not lost a game, no matter how ugly or pretty it was, since that heartbreaking loss to the Ottawa Redblacks September 5th. So they're stringing wins together right now. So they come into the Western Final pretty hot, just as the Alouettes go into the Eastern Final pretty hot. We'll take one last break and come back to recap the weekend that was in grassroots football, amateur football in Canada. The Grey Cup is returning to Regina in 2027. This will mark the 5th time Regina has hosted the game, previously in 95, 2003, 2013, and 2022. The CFL now goes through a bidding process where the game is awarded to the team and the city that presents the best bid. Despite that, fans not too happy about the game going to Regina again. This will mark the 2nd time the Grey Cup has been played in Regina in 6 seasons, and 7 times the Grey Cup has been held in the West in the last 10 seasons, especially when 2027 marks 10 years since it was last in Ottawa, 11 years since it was last in Toronto, and 19 years since it was last in Montreal. What are your thoughts on the big game being back in Regina? All right, so coming up this weekend, it's the Canadian Bowl. The Okanagan Sun and the Saskatoon Hilltops will battle in Canada's oldest football championship. And then over the weekend, now there were some blowouts that happened, like St. Mary's beat Acadia 37-0. St. FX, a close one though, beat Bishops 26-24. So those two teams going to be playing in the Loney Bowl coming up this coming weekend. Montreal smashed Concordia 51-2. So that was a rough one. And then Laval beat McGill 47-25. So Laval, Montreal, familiar teams playing each other in the Dunsmore Cup. And then the Yates Cup looks like it's going to have Laurier, who beat Guelph 37-30. They were up 27-0 at halftime. So Guelph ended up fighting back in that one. And they are going to be playing Queens, who beat Windsor. And then finally, the Saskatchewan teams are going to be battling each other in the Hardy Cup after the Huskies beat the Thunderbirds 26-7, and the Rams beat the Bisons in an overtime thriller at Mosaic Stadium 32-29. Huskies, Rams playing in the Hardy Cup. That's going to be quite the game.
Yeah, I think it's two teams that are matched up well, playing, in Saskatoon. It's gonna be rocking up there. I think it's hopefully the weather's good and one of those two teams from Saskatchewan moves on.
Man, Saskatoon is hosting some good football, I guess, this coming weekend. So they have that one, and they have the Hilltops hosting the Okanagan Sun. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And I don't know what the times are. I haven't really paid attention. Hopefully it doesn't conflict with the Rider games. So hopefully that we can get more people in the stands in Saskatoon watching those games or watching on TV or however streaming. But yeah, I think whoever is able to get a chance to watch those games is going to be in for all of the games in these bowl games or cup games, whatever you want to call them.
It does look like the temperature is going to drop this weekend. I know where I am going to be, but we'll get to that on Wednesday's preview for the division finals in the Canadian Football League. So here we are, the Stamps and the Bombers join the Elks, the Red Blacks, and the Argos on the outside looking in as we get prepared for the Eastern Final in Hamilton, where the Montreal Alouettes will be taking on the Ticats, and then in Regina, where the Riders are hosting the BC Lions. We're in for some more entertainment, and for Bomber fans and Calgary fans, stress-free CFL playoffs and a stress-free Grey Cup. It's actually something you should not take for granted. For Sheldon Jones, I'm Travis Currah. Take care of yourself and each other. We'll talk to you soon on 2 and Out.
The 2 and Out CFL podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Travis Currah and co-hosted by Sheldon Jones. Subscribe to 2 and Out on all major podcast platforms and YouTube to keep up to date with future shows.